nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you.
Amen. Thank you for worshiping with us. You may now take a seat.
I think the band might need a little more enthusiasm. So that was amazing stuff, band. Thanks so much. And there's some talent and there's hard work, and we get those things put together with God's blessing. You got what we just got. So to the band, thanks for all you do. You guys work so hard, and you're a real blessing. So awesome stuff. So I'm Craig Finnestad. I'm one of the pastors here at the Water's Edge. If you're new to us, welcome, and just thanks for being with us. If you came last week for the first time and you came back this time, just thanks for joining us again. We hope you'll come back with us a few times. They had talked about Starting Point earlier. We'd love if you would come to that. We'd love to get to know you. I always think about new people. I look at them and talk to them and listen to them, and I hear that they have passions and experiences and gifts that will make us a better church. We want to be a better church, so we invite you to be part of our family. So thanks for coming back. Thanks for being here for the first time. We, as a church, we're really, truly grateful for that. It's not just words that we say. Every additional person makes us better. So a couple weeks ago, I dropped on y'all that we're trying to raise $150,000 for a prayer path, and I can tell, like, when I'm up here, if y'all are listening or not, or if you're overwhelmed, or if you're anxious, or if you're excited, like, I've done this long enough, and so it was a big ask. We still got one more week to go as well, but $150,000 would be the biggest special offering we've ever done. There's nothing even really that close. So what we said is if we got to $150,000, we'd be able to fully do the prayer path, and if we raised another 50 on top of that, there's a amphitheater that's the end part of the prayer path, and that's an additional 50,000. So I remember, like, the first week, we kept going through the budget. We wanted to make sure everything was perfect, and I figured we really needed like $90,000 just to kind of do the bare minimum to make it worth our effort to do it this year. And I was praying, like, gosh, just get us to that point at least. And so here's what y'all did. This is crazy. That was it's amazing. And y'all just, I kept seeing this number, every few days, and y'all just really knocked it out of the park on this one. There's 1 week left. I'll announce our final total next week. So if you are going to give or even make a pledge, some of you might do a stock or like a required minimum distribution if you're over age 72, or maybe you just need a week or two to get the money in the right place. So try to have that in by Friday, and then I'll announce the final total next Sunday. So obviously we have what we need to do the prayer path really, really well, kind of like the dream package, and then we're 20 of the $50,000 on the way for the amphitheater. So we're going to name the amphitheater when it's built, whether it's this year, we'll have to wait until next year. It'll be named after A.J. Sandoval, who was our worship leader in the beginning days. So A.J. and I ran, it was funny, back before, like, we kind of became more corporate than we had to. Like, I remember, like, texting him on Saturday nights, and I'm like, hey, what songs you got tomorrow? And he's like, dude, what are you talking about? And it works out. But he loved kids, he loved youth, he loved concerts, he loved music, and the amphitheater is already graded, the concrete is down, the accessibility is done, so about half the cost is already taken care of. The amphitheater will be a structure that looks like the structure between the playground and the volleyball court, just a little bit smaller. it's really going to be just an amazing thing for the church. We'll have I can see us having adult worship there sometimes in the summer, the old Holiness Methodist style where, people get out there and they sweat and they hear about Jesus, and it'll be a place where we can do concerts. It's just going to be like an amazing place. So the Prayer Path is fully funded. $30,000 more would get us to the amphitheater where we're able to do that this year. So I really hope some of you will, who haven't done so yet, will take this on. It will be a real blessing to our church and a real blessing to our community, and we'll really finish everything out there. So I want to show you something or somebody. So her name's Helga, and is Norwegian for blessed. And I wish it was more accurate and it was Norwegian for pain, because she has caused me a lot of grief over these last 6 or 7 or 8 weeks or whatever it's been. So she's only, this picture was taken a week ago. I think she's 16 weeks and she weighs 52 pounds already. If she was a boy, I guess I would have just called her Clifford. And she's our 4th Newfoundland, so we knew what we were getting into. And so I usually sit in this leather chair on your right, and I had her blocked because she's a lap dog, and I've got to get her out of this habit because she's going to be 150 pounds in about a year, and that's just too big to have a lap dog. And so I put the ottoman, you can't see it, in front where she didn't have access to me. So she goes to plan B, and she gets up on the couch, and then she leaped over. So I was sitting there when she started this whole thing, and I was not having any of her shenanigans. I got up, and so she was stuck. She couldn't go anywhere. She couldn't go back. She it's just there's a cliff, and she had one paw, set of paws on one side, one set on the other side, and so I didn't help her right away. I let her suffer a little bit, just like God did to the people in the wilderness. And the real reason is I was still mad at her from the previous night, where she'd wake me up every 15 minutes. We have this bell that she rings when she has to go to the bathroom, but now she figures out that it's just when she wants to go outside, she rings the bell. Even if she doesn't have to go to the bathroom, and she'll tinkle a little bit, and then she still expects a treat. And the reason I'm more tired, more grumpy than I usually am is because I don't sleep anymore. And so you're thinking, oh, but Craig, she's so cute. Okay, she's cute, I'll give you that. Now, do you know why God made puppies so cute? So they survive. If she wasn't cute, her picture would not be up there. She'd be on some farm somewhere. Now, I took this picture, and I eventually helped her to get unstuck. So you can give me a round of applause for that now. Yeah, the problem is, I think David's still got about 6 months left. I got about 2 weeks left where I can lift her up. So, the days here are numbered. So Nora Jones, in 2009, she wrote a song. Just like so many of her songs, it was a masterpiece. The song was called Stuck, and part of the lyrics of the song is, but what I'm really thinking is, why can't this be easy? So I'm guessing in not so many words, you've actually asked that question, why can't life just be a little bit easier? Why are things so tough? And just whether it's the puppy trying to get affection, or just the title of the song, what happens is people get stuck. We get stuck in the same place. We want to be somewhere else, but we're stuck at where we are. And I have a list. These are just things. We have a Facebook show at noon on Wednesdays, and I asked the audience, congregation, online viewer, whatever the word is, some ways we get stuck, and here's what they came up with. We get stuck with work. We can get stuck with relationships, right? Have you heard the phrase a dead-end relationship or a dead-end job? That's the language that somebody who is stuck would use. So there's finances, there's the past, there's health, there's comfort, beliefs, addictions. So work, let's just start with that one. So it's you're in the show The Office, except you don't have the witty banter and the quirky coworkers. You just got this woman named Kate who's the office gossip queen, and there's no social boundary that she's not afraid to cross. And every day, like, you just have these soul-crushing meetings that it's like a marathon. It wears you out. Then when it's quitting time, you finally get to leave the fluorescent land of cubicles, and you get to escape home. But then, 12 hours later, you got to go back and you got to do it again. Now, I talk to people a lot about this one. As a pastor, a lot of people have talked to me about their work life. And so here's what I hear. I feel stuck at my job because there's a lack of growth opportunities. I feel stuck at my job because I feel underappreciated. My job causes me to have like a really poor work-life balance and is taking a toll on the people that I love the most. I hear this one probably more than the others, I'm guessing. I make a lot of money at the job, but I just don't like it. And the people that I'm with, it frustrates me, and I don't see value, but I can't do anything because I can't imagine what I would do that I make the amount that I make now. And that's someone who's stuck in the career, in the workplace, in the job. Now, relationships, I hear this one a lot. I'm financially dependent upon him. I can't leave. Oftentimes I'll hear, and they don't use this phrase, but it's low self-esteem. If this friendship, if this relationship ends, I don't know if I'm good enough for any other relationship or friendship. So maybe so the word settle, that's a word that someone who is stuck would use. Maybe I'll just settle for this relationship and continue it. Finances, so sometimes it's just bad decisions that we make. Sometimes unexpected things come up. Have you tried to get your car fixed lately? I remember when I was a kid, you'd go get your car fixed, like $178, and now that's like the price of an oil change. And to get the car fixed, it costs a small fortune. And this is like medical stuff. It's the same. So what happens is, now here's a word that people who are stuck financially would use. The word is debt. Maybe it's bad luck, maybe it's our own mismanagement, maybe we were taught poorly, maybe we weren't taught at all. But there's many that feel stuck financially, the past. So here I hear phrases like, I just don't know if I can forgive myself, or I failed before and there's no reason I'm not going to just continue to fail again. I don't want to continue hurting people. They look to their past, and because their past was a certain outcome, they believe the future is going to be the exact same outcome, so they get stuck in that middle place. Health, I thought, was an interesting one. I wouldn't have thought of this one, but whoever said it on that show that day was very astute. I can't stop smoking. I just wish I could lose that last 30 pounds. The one I hear mostly as a pastor is probably more something like this. I'm not able to do the things that I used to do, and I love the things that I used to do, and I just wish that I could do them, and that's the language of someone who's stuck. Comfort, I wouldn't have thought of this one. I thought this was really good. So with comfort, what we do is we sacrifice possibility on the altar of safety and security. And there's some of us who are stuck in the land of comfort because, this whole idea of faith and courage is just too much of a risk. Beliefs, I had to, think about some beliefs that would, make us stuck. So people pleasing is definitely going to be a belief. It's a belief that many of us have. If I please people, they are going to value me and like me, as opposed to the truth. If I spend my life trying to please people, I'm going to wear myself out trying to please another imperfect human, and I'm not going to please them, and I'm going to end up, forfeiting my own soul. I think comparison is a belief that that's a way to get stuck fast. I compare my kids to someone else's kids. I compare my house to someone else's house. I compare my job to someone else's job, and that is a really fast way. If you want to try to be stuck for a week, just start comparing. Instant gratification, I think, would be a big one, a belief that we have to be stuck. So, valuing the short-term gratification more than we value the long-term good, that would be a huge way to get stuck. We're never going to be able to really pursue our dreams because we're always pursuing our pleasures. It's kind of like that old axiom, and you've probably heard this before. In life, we have to decide between what it is we want now and what it is we want most. And then the last one is addictions, and I didn't have to go to Google on this one. This one was pretty simple. There's food. You could be addicted to social media. You could be addicted to affirmation. It could be alcohol. It could be gambling. It could be social media. Like, there's addictions all over the place. And what we're going to do over these next 8 weeks, and we're not going to solve everything today. So I was talking to Tim Carmody. He was for those of you who knew, he was one of the two that did the announcements this morning, and he did our Good Friday service. And I told him, I said, you have to just leave it at the tension. Like, the message of Good Friday is that Jesus died on a cross, period. Like, that's the end of the story on Good Friday. We need to save the Easter message for Easter morning. Now, the same is going to be true with today's message. Like, I'm not going to resolve a 40-year journey in the wilderness that the Israeli people took in 30 minutes. Today I think you might get a few little pointers on what it looks to be stuck and maybe some things to stop doing that would get us unstuck. But I want to just start here at the beginning. Let's look at the map. Here, we're doing an 8 weeks study on the book of Exodus, and here's where this map is going to take us. So that wasn't the map that I sent, but we're going to show it anyway. Do you see like where the M is in Mediterranean? Then go down to like where that little bay is, and if you come down to it's really the city on the top. That's where we are in Exodus chapter 1. Now, if you go down just a little bit to you see where it says Nile River, and there's some pyramids. Cairo is just right above there. Jerusalem is going to be kind of, you can see like the Dead Sea there, and Jerusalem's going to be between there and the Mediterranean Sea, kind of in the top right of where the cities are. And so what happened in Exodus 1 is at the end of Genesis. Joseph and all the brothers had moved from Israel to Egypt. So predictably, the 12 brothers, including the youngest Benjamin, time takes its toll on people, and they all died. Now, the good news for the Israel population in Egypt is there was not just 12 of them anymore, there were 70. And those 70 took the earlier command in Genesis to be fruitful and multiply very seriously, and they were becoming, there was a lot of them all really fast. And the Pharaoh in Egypt, he was getting really worried about this. Hey, they're growing, we're not really growing. Pretty soon there's going to be just as many of them as there is of us. And that's where we'll pick it up here in verse 11. So the Egyptians, this is Exodus chapter 1, verse 11. So the Egyptians made the Israelites, before this population thing got out of hand, the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. But more than the Egyptians, the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread. And the more alarmed the Egyptians became. So what's a word that you would describe the people of Israel here with? The word is stuck. Yeah, they're stuck doing the labor on behalf of the Egyptians. They can't go anywhere. They're not allowed out. They're obviously allowed to reproduce, but they're stuck. They have what would be called a dead-end job. They have what's called a really rough life. Let's look what happens next. It gets worse. So the Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They showed no mercy. They pushed them to their physical and their emotional limits. They made their lives bitter, not better, bitter, forcing them. So here was their job. They mixed mortar, and they made bricks. That's not easy work. Mortar's heavy. Making bricks, it's hot. With all the fires they would have to have. And then do all the work in the fields. I grew up in a little town in northwest Iowa, and did anyone in here ever have to like walk beans or detassel corn? Like I did both those, and it's tough work working in the field. They didn't have like the John Deere with the GPS and the 16-row like harvester here. So they were, look at that word, they were ruthless. They were ruthless in their demands. So they're stuck. And one of the ways that we would look at getting unstuck is constant communication, daily growth in our relationship with God. So what we've done is we've put together another book. I know many of y'all love the one that Leander put together for Lent, the Dinners with Jesus. And this one is called The Red Sea Road. Make sure you get your copy on your way out. This will take us through the 40 chapters of Exodus. So there's a Bible reading plan. This is week 1. So I was meeting with Leander, and we're like starting to dream about putting this together. And it turns out there's 40 chapters in Exodus. There's 8 weeks in the series. So 40 divided by 8. It's like we had to get a calculator out, but we eventually figured out it was 5. So 5 readings per week. 5 readings per week gets us there. So just think about this. Like there's 8 weeks in this series. There's 7 days in every week. So 5 of those 7 days, just read 1 chapter. And I just read, I just told you about half a chapter. It's like, that gets you halfway through chapter 1. Like, that's how fast this is. But just check those off and challenge yourself. Like 5 out of the 7 days, I'm going to read through a chapter of Exodus, and I'm going to use that as a vehicle to move me from a place where I'm stuck to a place where I'm experiencing freedom. Now, there's videos that go along with this. There's questions for small group and individual discussions. Now, way in the back of the book, I want to show you something really cool that Leandra and Sarah put together. So this is page 1. So what I want you to do when you get your book, and just reflect on this the rest of the message, what I want you to do is, where you start, I want you to write whatever your word is, where you're stuck. So it could be finances, it could be relationships. I just, like this morning, I put envy on there. I just think if you were stuck with envy, like the devastation that could have on your life, it'd be really tough to be in good relationships with people. It would be tough to ever experience like any type of contentment. So then every week there's going to be something that you write, and it's going to be a process of going from envy in this case. So let's look at the next page then. To the promised land. In this case, I think the promised land for someone that had envy as the reason they were stuck would be gratitude. Now imagine if that could be your story. Imagine if during the next 8 weeks, your narrative of being stuck in envy was totally released, and all of a sudden you were set free with gratitude. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be, what if like it's an addiction, and the word in the last day of the last page would be recovery. What if it's guilt, and your new word is grace? What if it's financial stress, and over these next 8 weeks, you're able to get to the place of contentment and like patience with the process of getting to where you want to go? What if it was like people pleasing, and the new word was God pleasing? What if it was comparison, and the new word is collaboration? What if it was like low self-esteem? And 8 weeks from now, during this Exodus journey, you realize that you are a beloved child of God who has sacred worth. Like, you can see the power and the potential of these 8 weeks that are in front of us. Now, Exodus, I love the book. It's a story of the parting of the Red Sea. It has miracles and wonders. And one of the messages you'll hear is about how Moses got the 10 Commandments and what that meant for the Israeli people in the wilderness, and what that means for us who are stuck in the United States in 2024. Now, ultimately, they get unstuck. Ultimately, they find freedom, and there's a new new beginning, the promised land. What I hope and what we've been praying is that over the next 8 weeks, we find new beginnings and we get unstuck and we find freedom in our promised land. Now, for those of you who are stuck, I should say for those of us who are stuck, I want you to know this. A promised land lies on the other side of your wilderness. Like, that's the biblical story. This one has played itself out not just in Exodus, but this one has played itself out through human history. Like, there's good news. On the other side of the wilderness, there's the promised land. On the other side of being stuck, there's freedom. Now, I love that the people of Israel made the most of this. Now, there's times that, they weren't happy campers. There's times that they complained. There's times that they wished they were somewhere else. But God did amazing things in them during their nearly 4 decades in the wilderness. What they did is they used this time as a time of transformation and growth. They used this time in the wilderness to learn how to trust each other and learn how to depend on God for abundance and provision and guidance. They had physical discomfort, but they grew spiritually during these days with humility and perseverance and resilience. And ultimately the wilderness, and I think if they would have just went straight from Egypt to Israel, I don't think they would have been ready. I don't think they would have been successful. I think it was during those 40 years where they really learned how to be successful, and they were prepared for when they crossed the river into their promised land. Now, I was coaching a church team. It wasn't our church. It was a church in Kansas, and there was probably about 12 of them on their staff team, and one of the things the pastor wanted me to do was to just really, get them to get along better, to hear their stories, to share their stories, to build high levels of trust. So one of the questions I asked fairly early on with the day I was with them was, I said, I want you to tell me a time in your life when you've really experienced significant growth in your relationship with God. So you know what I was thinking they would say? I was thinking, gosh, when I went to camp when I was in middle school, or when I joined the campus ministry in college, it just totally shed light. Or maybe it was during the sermon series, Dinner with Jesus, and the pastors were just like so insightful and helpful. And it was during those 7 weeks that I just discovered who Jesus was, and I discovered who I was. And I didn't get a single one of those things, not one out of 12. What I heard is someone's husband got cancer, and for 2 years they went through hell. And it was during that wilderness experience that she learned to fully trust in God. I heard about a guy who got arrested for drunk driving. He says, I was in that jail cell, and I realized I'd tried things my way, and it wasn't working. It got me here, and the consequences could have been devastating. And it was on that cold, hard, concrete floor that I grew. Someone else went through a divorce. Someone else had a problem with a teenage kid, and let's just do 8 more of these. And that's what it was. And every single one of them, it was a wilderness experience. It was a time that they were stuck. That God eventually got them to the place of the promised land, or God eventually got them to the place of freedom. And if you're stuck, and one thing, just embrace it. It's where you are right now. And know that there's a promised land on the other side of your wilderness. Now, I'm just going to look at two. So oftentimes, if I were to talk to someone about change, oftentimes what I would hear is, okay, I got to start doing this, I got to start doing this, I got to start doing this. And I'm not going to do that this morning. What I'm going to do is the opposite of that. I'm going to look at 2 things, and we find both these in Exodus. I'm going to look at 2 things that we need to stop doing. And these should be very achievable for all of us. 2 things that we need to stop doing to get unstuck and to get to the place of freedom. Now, the first is make excuses. So the best way to stay stuck, I mean, if you want to stay stuck for the rest of your life, just make a bunch of excuses. I can't do this because, and you can find enough reasons for the rest of your life, and you're going to be stuck for the rest of your life. If you want to move forward, if you want to go from the place of stuck to freedom, if you want to go from wilderness to the promised land, what we do is we stop making excuses. There's an old axiom, and you've probably heard this before. The one who is really good at making excuses isn't very good at anything else because they don't have the capacity to do both. So excuses. We're actually going to look at this story more in depth next week. But I want to give us a preview. It's in Exodus chapter 4, verse 10. And Moses here is being called by God to lead the people of Israel from the place of stuck to the place of freedom, from the wilderness to the promised land. But so God invited Moses, like, lead these people. But Moses pleaded with the Lord. Moses made excuses is what happened. Oh, Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been, and I'm not now. And even though you have spoken to me, I get tongue-tied. My words, they get tangled. Yeah, I remember I had this exact conversation with a man one time. He went to our church probably, I'm guessing maybe like 15 years ago to maybe like 10 years ago, and he was about my age. And he just really felt that God was calling him to be a pastor and to lead a church. So we talked about this a number of times, and it never worked out for him. And he had all the excuses. Well, I got a great job now, and if I become a pastor, I'm not going to be making as much money. I can't go to seminary because I can't, move my kids from where they are to like a different city. And I said, well, I got online stuff. Well, I just don't know if I am a good online learner, and like just excuse after excuse after excuse. Now I don't know like how the story turned out. I did, run to about 5 years ago, and I know he was like still doing what he's doing, and I just wonder like if God has led him to do this, like that's not going to leave him, and I just wonder at the end of his life, what kind of regrets he might have that he didn't. And I'm just using that as an example. I mean, insert your dream, insert God's calling in your life, insert your goal here. So we can come up with excuses and stay stuck, or we can stop making excuses and move to this place of freedom. Now, the second way we're going to look at this morning is ways to stay stuck is to complain. So does anyone know like a chronic complainer? You guys are really good. I know a bunch of them, so I must get out more than y'all do. Aren't they just like a joy to be around? It's like, hey, can you come over? I just want to listen to you complain for like the next half hour. Like that would just like fill my cup if you could do that for me. And so like a lot of times we even complain about things we can't control. Like I can't control that gas is like $3.99 a gallon. So why should I complain about it? I can't control that yesterday when I was out working the prayer path and putting the boulders down, that the wind was like 70 miles an hour. I couldn't do anything about it, but I complained. God, it's so windy. Traffic. This is a nightmare to try to leave this place like at 5 in the afternoon. I remember like when we moved here in 2000, this was a gravel road. 192nd to 204th Harris, it was a gravel road. The various aches and pains in your body. Does anyone else like wake up in the morning like wondering what part of your body is going to hurt today? Like, oh gosh, my left knee is like sore for some reason, and it's Helga's fault for sure. And the economy, I mean, the economy is like about as good as it's been in my lifetime. People still complain about it. I don't know if you checked the stock market lately or like real estate. I mean, if you are at least on the owning side, like things are pretty darn good. Or even something just minuscule, like having to turn the radio station like when a Nickelback song comes on. Like there's always something to complain about. And so here's what complaining does. It takes a toll on the complainer, and it takes a toll on those who are around the complainer, and it keeps you stuck. Think about this. Think about if the people of Israel, and they complained a lot, and we'll look at this, if they would have spent as much time and energy like banding together and praying and planning and organizing, is they would have complaining. They would not have been in the wilderness for 40 years. And every time you complain, you're wasting your time and energy on resources that could be used to change and to get unstuck. So then in Exodus chapter 16, verse 8, then Moses added, "The Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning. For he has heard all your complaints against him." So think about that. When I complain about the wind, who am I? I'm actually complaining about the Creator here. I'm not complaining about the weatherman. I'm complaining about the Creator. So he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord, not against us. So a few weeks ago, it was a Friday night, and David's lacrosse team from Millard West was playing another school, and it was a really close game. And I found myself during the game complaining. Here, I want to show you a picture. So that's David. He's number 42. So this is 3 minutes left to go in the game, and the referees, and they never do this. They called an equipment check on David. So just randomly, these guys are checking a stick to make sure the pocket's not too deep or the things aren't too tight. You can tell David's annoyed. I was totally annoyed. You don't do this. I've watched lacrosse for 10 years. I've never seen a stick check with 3 minutes left in the game. And then I thought about it later that night. I thought about this later that night. If you want to know who won, just ask me afterwards. For those of you who don't care, Millard West did win, and David scored the winning goal in sudden death overtime. So, but thank you. Thank you. I've got it. That's there's a lot of clapping going on, the music and the money we raise, and gonna raise some more. And now David's prowess as a lacrosse player. And I was laying in bed, and I thought to myself, I was missing the whole point of everything. It was like a gorgeous night that night. My son was getting to play a game that he loves with some of his closest friends. I was around people that I love and some of my closest friends. It was a fun game to watch, win, lose, or draw. It was a fun game to watch. And I thought the one thing that prevented me was being stuck in frustration from experiencing the freedom, the promised land of joy and solidarity, community and accomplishment. And I just thought to myself, I can't do this. I'm going to go to these games, and there might be a time I probably would have called that one a little different, but I'm glad I'm not the referee. That's a tough gig. I thought I had all the resources I needed to be fully content and free that night, and I chose to complain. And so it is with life. Friends, I invite you to. We got enough for everybody, so I invite you to take one of these. Doesn't have to be one per family. Just if you're going to use it, take it. I invite you to start off at that second to last page and just hopefully this morning, and maybe you're not there yet, but you're going to think about it and pray about it, and you're going to write where you're stuck. And then we're going to take this 8-week journey down the Red Sea Road, and we're going to get to the place of this place of freedom. I invite you to be part of the Bible reading community. I invite you to have conversations with others about this. I invite you to pray and fully experience the Red Sea Road. So let us go to God and let us pray. Lord, we come here this morning as individuals. We also come as a church. And Lord, as I was reflecting this week about the various places that I'm stuck, Lord, I pray for all of us that we can move to these places of being stuck in the wilderness to the freedom and the joy of the promised land. Lord, it's a journey we're going to take. It took the people of Israel 40 years, and God, we're going to spend 8 weeks, and I pray, God, during these 8 weeks that we get unstuck and we arrive at a better place. And Lord, today we bring to you our excuses, and we lay them at your altar, Lord. Help us to stop making excuses and start making progress. Lord, we just trust that your will is never going to lead us, where your grace will not sustain us. And Lord, move us from these excuses to progress. And Lord, for all of us who complain, Lord, I come to you as a complainer, and Lord, free us from this. Lord, let us take a step back and just see the beauty of your creation. Let us see the community that we can experience in others. Lord, help us to trade in our complaining for gratitude. Help us to not waste our time complaining or making excuses, but to use that time, to use that energy to get to this place of freedom, to become the people that you want us to become, to do the things that you want us to do. So, Lord, we pray that you'll remove this complaining from our words and these moanings from our minds. God, replace the excuses and the complaints with better things, with abundance and tolerance and joy and gratitude and patience and ultimately grace. So, Lord, we love you. We're just excited to take this journey on the Red Sea Road, and God, we just, with anticipation, wait to just see what you're going to do in us and through us. So, God, as your people now together in one voice, we come and pray the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Hey, don't forget to take the book on the way out. And then we also have a bookmark. You can use this in your Bibles or the devotional book. It's a beautiful day out there. It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. So have a great day, and we'll see you here next week at the Water's Edge.